Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast YouTube channel. My name is Sam and this is week 9 of our F1 fantasy show. In this episode, we'll be looking back at how we did in Azerbaijan, talking about price changes and looking ahead to this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix, going through Matt's team and any alternatives he might look to swap in before the deadline. But before anything else, let's introduce our fancy expert, Matt Collier. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, thank you, Sam. How are you?
I am doing very well. But before we move on to talk about the second race of this doubleheader in Canada, let's look back at Azerbaijan and see where we sit in the Scenario 7 podcast fantasy table. Let's start with Performer of the Week, where we look at the person with the most points from last race. Matt, you know what? I'm going to let you introduce this one. Who was last week's Performer of the Week?
Yeah, so last week's Performer of the Week was someone called Sam.C. They got 252 points and they used their Mega Driver chip on Sergio Perez. So I'll break down how they did points-wise. So Perez got 114 points. Carlos Sainz, as their turbo driver, got 0 points. Fernando Alonso got 22 points. Valtteri Bottas got 14 points. Sebastian Vettel got 25 points and Red Bull CONSTRUCTOR got 77 points. So, Sam, very good weekend for you. How do you assess it?
I am very, very happy. Of course, Sam.C being me, and I'm over the moon that I have been able to been the top performer during a week, because it's got to the point of the season where I've realised I'm not going to be top of the table, like for overall, but Performer of the Week was what I was aiming for, and to get it in Baku, I'm very happy. You went through my drivers there, and they did very well, bar Sainz. I mean, Bottas could have potentially done better, but Alfa Romeo really struggled. And I wanted to go big on a week where people would struggle and wouldn't really use their Mega Driver. So that's why I went for Baku. And I also bought in Stroll to make this happen. I swapped out Tsunoda for Stroll as I saw his price was rising. And on the advice of Matt, off camera, of course, that's why he's the fancy expert. And his price rose. So I then swapped him out and swapped Leclerc out so I could bring in Perez and bring in Vettel. And they both did very well for me. So I have got to admit, I am very happy. But let's move on from me. We'll talk about where those points has put me in the table overall in a second. But now to the top of the table, and Andrew T retains his spot with 1,737 points. That's going to be tough to topple over because he has started very well. Matt, to you next, and you are up one place to 12th on 1,540 points, continuing your steady progress up the table. Were you happy with your week in Baku?
It looks a lot better than it actually is. I know 132 points on paper doesn't look very good, but considering loads of people have Ferraris their constructor, which got 3, and my constructor got 77, that kind of explains how much I've gained on people above me. I've definitely closed the gap. So, yeah, very happy. It's quite difficult to gain points at the moment because everyone's got very similar teams, and the one main difference that I have compared to other people's teams is my constructor. And yeah, it's fair to say they completely thrashed Ferrari this week.
Yeah, they completely destroyed Ferrari. That's definitely fair to say. And now to me, you know how many points I got last week, but where does that put me in the overall table? Well, I have gained a whopping 20 places up to 25th on 1,421 points, closing that gap on you, Matt. I am coming for you, but I explained what I did with my team, but up to 25th, it doesn't look as bad as it was. I'm into the top half and very solid. A bit of a worry because of quite a few drivers around me haven't used their Mega Driver yet, but I'm happy with 25th considering where I was last week. Let's go more in depth with your team last week, Matt. The team you settled with is on screen now. So you got Bottas with 14 points. Perez got you 38. Kevin Magnussen got you -7. Carlos Sainz got you 0. Charles Leclerc, your turbo driver, got you 10. And Red Bull got you 77, 132 points in total, and the 13th best in Baku for everyone's performance that week. Talk me through your selection.
Yeah, I've already explained it earlier, but I'll go more in depth. I was pleased that I did Leclerc as my turbo driver, not Sainz, because Leclerc somehow actually got me some points. Yeah, the Ferrari liability well and truly shot a lot of my points this week. You can kind of see why I was questioning Magnussen a few shows back and saying that's the one position I'm not happy with. And once again, he got negative points of -7. Perez did really well, got 38 points. Potentially could have been more if he got the race win. Bottas managed to get 14 points after still having a very difficult weekend. Carlos Sainz got 0 points. Leclerc got 10. And then, as I explained earlier, my Red Bull as constructor got 77 points. So yeah, very, very pleased how I did this weekend.
Yeah, that is very solid. Time to look at some price changes. As always, there have been a lot of fluctuations, not as many as there has been previously, but there have definitely been fluctuations and will continue to be until the deadline. What we talk about now is the prices at the time of recording and are likely to change as everyone panics and remembers that this week is a double header. So let's start with the drivers. What changes stand out to you?
Yeah, there's very little changes in terms of drivers this week. The only driver increase this week is Sergio Perez. After he massively decreased a few shows back, people have brought him back in. So Perez has gone from 18.2 million up to 18.3 million, so an increase of 0.1. And then onto some driver decreases. Hamilton's gone from 30.1 down to 30 million, so a decrease of 0.1. And then another decrease is Lance Stroll has gone from 9.2 million down to 9 million, a decrease of 0.2. Then onto some constructor changes. Despite getting a 1-2 in Baku, Red Bull have gone from 32.6 million down to 32.3 million, so a decrease of 0.3, despite getting a 1-2 in Baku, which I don't understand. And then this is even more funny. Ferrari have gone from 25.7 up to 25.8 million, so an increase of 0.1 for Ferrari after a double DNF. And then Aston Martin have gone from 10.9 million up to 11 million, an increase of 0.1.
Yeah, some truly bizarre constructor changes. Fair enough with Aston Martin, but Ferrari going up and Red Bull going down when last week Ferrari got no points and Red Bull got maximum points. Very interesting. You guys at home, what are you doing to this market? Very strange. Let's now look at the team you're going to be deploying this week. Of course, we need to preface this by the fact that this is subject to change as the deadline is not until Saturday and practice sessions can be used as an insight into how teams will perform this week. First up is Bottas in an unchanged fancy lineup costing 9.6 million. Why does he keep his place?
I'm kind of very unsure at the moment with Bottas. I've currently got him in, but I'm going to pay particular attention to the 3 practice sessions this week because Alfa Romeo have definitely been dropping off in pace, and yeah, the Alfa Romeo. I mean, Bottas got out qualified by Wanyu Zhou out in Baku, so yeah, he's currently in my team, but I'll be assessing him very closely in the practice sessions.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Now to Checo Perez, Mr. Sergio Perez himself. He also keeps his place valued at 18.3 million, second in Baku last week. Why have you kept faith with him?
He's a very solid pick, and now he's second in the Drivers' Championship. He's looking even more solid, and yeah, he's been doing really well so far this season. And yeah, he's definitely a must-have if you don't have him already.
Yeah, a must-have. You've heard it here first. Kevin Magnussen keeps his place. It's funny because in Monaco, you had Albon, he got you -7. Then you bought back, you came back to Kevin Magnussen, who got -7 in Baku. Why have you kept faith in him, or is it just because of the fact that the other options aren't that great?
There are other options. As I said, I don't know how some teams will do this weekend. So I'm very quickly losing faith with Magnussen. I've already lost faith with him once, hence why I put Albon in for Monaco, which didn't go very well. But I'll have to see how the practice sessions go this weekend. But ideally, I'd like to find a permanent replacement for Magnussen. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Carlos Sainz stays another week, costing 17.2 million. Why did you keep him?
Well, he's always going to get podiums, but only if his car finishes. And yeah, I've already took a risk before where I took him out and he finished on the podium. So I'm kind of going to stay loyal and just keep him in my team. Loads of other people still got him in their teams and hope that he finishes the races and gets me the points. So yeah, that's why I've kept him in my team.
Yeah, is it a similar story with your final driver, Charles Leclerc? He is also going to be a turbo driver this week, costing 19 million, with Ferrari reliability a big issue at the moment. Why have you kept faith in him and Sainz? Because is it a fact that everyone else is keeping him in in their team so that you're not losing out on too many points?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky one. It's quite difficult to find good alternatives. For example, Leclerc's 19 million and the prices of Russell and Hamilton are just so much more expensive that I'd have to sacrifice in other places. And yeah, Leclerc's still a very good driver, and he's always getting on pole. So it's just about whether he can finish the race, and yeah, that car's always got the potential to win. So it's just about hoping he doesn't DNF, and yeah, that's why I still kept in my team.
Yeah, we are still waiting for you to have a weekend where a driver hasn't DNF'd. So hopefully that's coming soon. Time for the constructor, and Red Bull keeps its place, valued at 32.3 million, which is a decrease. Was there any doubt that you were going to keep Red Bull, or was it always pretty certain?
It was always certain I was going to keep Red Bull, even if they kept decreasing and decreasing. I'd still keep them because they look so solid at the moment. And yeah, their performances over the last few weeks have just been ruthless, getting loads of 1-2s. And yeah, for me, they're the best constructor. So that's why I've kept them in my team.
Yeah, I have gone with exactly the same because Red Bull are looking very, very strong. We've gone through your team, but who are some alternatives you were looking to swap in before the deadline and that the people at home could potentially put in their teams?
Yeah, so I'll go through 3 alternatives like I do on each show, and I'll start with a constructor. So I've gone with Ferrari, priced at 25.8 million. They currently have a qualifying streak this weekend. So both their drivers qualify in the top 10, they'll get an extra +5 points. And yeah, this season they're particularly strong at qualifying, especially Leclerc. So they should probably get the qualifying streak this weekend at Canada. On to some drivers. I've gone with Lewis Hamilton, priced at 30 million. Is the only driver to have any kind of qualifying streak and any kind of race streak. So he's got both a qualifying streak and a race streak this weekend. So he'll get extra +5 if he qualifies in the top 10, an extra +10 if he finishes in the top 10. And then for another alternative, I've gone for a home race for Mr. Lance Stroll, priced at 9 million. In 2019, he did finish P9. In 2017, he finished P9. We'll forget what happened in 2018 with Brendan Hartley and Lance Stroll, but yeah, we'll have to see if he can keep a little trend of getting P9 at Canada. So yeah, there's some alternatives people should consider.
Yeah, some good picks. And that wraps up our video. I hope you found it helpful. A reminder that the deadline for changes is an hour before qualifying. So get your team finalised by then. Remember to like and subscribe. Follow us on our socials linked down below, along with the fancy league code if you still would like to join. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.